Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by Pucks and Pitchforks blog. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Tonight's podcast is titled Jack Hughes Out, Next Man Up. That's been the theme of the day, hasn't it? Is Jack okay? Is Jack okay? Will they tell us?
Who knows?
Will they tell us?
They're not going to tell
Typical
us.
Devils. They're not going to tell us anything. They used to blame Lou. Oh, it's always on Lou. Same thing's that. They're not telling us anything.
Yeah,
unless HIPAA laws apply or something. I don't know.
That's the main thing today, right? That's all we care about. I wrote on Pucks and Pitchforks, and I usually make people wait till the morning, but it's a special out for the evening. 3 interesting replacements outside of Michael McLeod, which looks like he's going to get the first shot. But I'm not the biggest fan of that move. I think McLeod looks really good where he's at, and I think that he should stick in that third, fourth line role, energy line role where he's at. But so that's on pucksandpitchforks.com, just some alternate universe type stuff of what could possibly happen with the Jack Hughes injury, and if it's a longer term, if it's like two or 3 games, McLeod could stay there, that's fine. I think we could survive 3 games without Jack Hughes, but I don't know, Sam. That's all I care about today.
Yeah, I can see why Lindy Ruff did that. You want continuity with that first line. I thought maybe Zacha would slide down to be center for that line that Jack is centering. But I think he wants continuity. I mean, after last season, there was and after last season, and then John Hines and Nazardine, there's just been so many changes that I think Lindy Ruff wants something that's consistent and constant, and is actually still working. It's definitely working. Devils are 2-0-0 right now, going into tomorrow's battle with the Washington Capitals. He said it's going to be pretty much physical, that game. And maybe he wanted to, put some more beef down the middle in the absence of Jack Hughes. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I get what you're saying as well.
I mean, you think the fight,
but you just can't replace
them at all?
You can't. I'm sorry?
The fact that McLeod fought, you think that influenced him? The fact that, he seems to be very focused on the fact that the Capitals are a quote-unquote physical team. They're not even ranked that high in hits, which is, interesting that Ruff would say something like that. But they have Tom Wilson. So and that's going to change.
Well, they got pushed around last year. They got pushed around last year. I think that's part of the influence.
The Devils got destroyed by the Capitals. They lost 8 games. All 8 games. It was pathetic how they played against the Capitals last year. So definitely need a better effort. But losing Jack Hughes, it's just, you're missing your second best defenseman. You're missing one of your top energy forwards. You're missing, your number 1 goalie theoretically. And then now you're also missing your top player. So it's starting to pile up. When I wrote earlier this off, or right before the season started, I wrote like the injuries that the Devils really couldn't afford. It was Hughes and Smith were on the list. They were 2 of the top 5. Then you had Bernier, Hamilton, and I think I had McLeod on there, just because they were the players that were going to be the most awkward to replace. Now, you lost 2 of them on the list, and you took McLeod out of his position, so you basically had to replace him anyway. And I think they replaced him with Gauthier, the PTO, signed a 2-way deal, and he stuck around after camp, even though he passed through waivers because the Devils have all these injuries. So that fourth line is now, I think it's Gauthier, Geertsen and is it VC? Is he the third guy on that line?
Yes.
Okay, so VC got a nice goal the other day. So, but I just don't. He can't. He's not a guy. He got a nice little tip and he put himself in position, and he was good to put himself in that position. Made a really smart move by going for the 5-hole instead of going for the left post, and it ended up turning into a goal because of it. But I don't know if Gauthier and Geertsen are the ones who are going to be able to get those opportunities for him. So, I feel like that line's going to play something like 6 minutes. Geertsen himself only played like 3 or 4 minutes the other night, but it seems like they're pretty focused on keeping him in the lineup for now. And good for him. He gets claimed off waivers, and now he's, we thought, I honest to goodness did not think he was going to be playing any games for the Devils this year. But here he is playing the second and third game of the season. Thanks to all the injuries the Devils are facing, there was a lot of guys on waivers this offseason that would have helped a lot more than Geertsen, if you ask me. But Lindy Ruff wanted to bring a little toughness to the lineup, and Geertsen does that. I can't deny that. He definitely brings some toughness to the lineup. I just don't know, how much you needed to falsify that. You know what I mean? You don't need to force that in there.
Yeah, but again, who are you going to bring up from the AHL? Who are you going to bring? Maybe this is just temporary. Maybe this is just one game. We don't know what's the status of Jack Hughes. Well, you never know.
Really bad.
Well, things look bad, but hey, Ryan Reeves looked bad, and somehow he's playing.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I think the difference is that if it was not at least somewhat bad, I think we would have heard something by now. If he was, Ruff came out and said he's day to day, which was surprising. And then, but like now nobody believes them, because we've heard this before. We've heard day to day. Mackenzie Blackwell was day to day. Then he was supposed to start 60 minutes on that last preseason game, and we haven't seen him since. We haven't heard about a setback. We haven't heard of what happened. He's just, disappeared. So it's just, it's hard to trust the Devils when it comes to injuries and relay of information that they quote unquote have or don't have. I just they're making us guess because they haven't been truthful in the past.
This is what makes me mad, because it almost seems like I feel like when we're doing this podcast, I feel like I'm waiting on Amanda Stein to say something, because that's how the information flows now with the New Jersey Devils. And when I don't see anything, there's no information. It used to be you would hear from Galiti or Richer, or they have inside sources, whatever. Now it's the team. It almost seems like they do their press conferences. It's Amanda, it's Matt Lachlan, and maybe Chris Westcott, and their team asking questions, and then they edit, and then they put it out on social media. I just want to know if he's going to be playing.
And I'm sorry, but there's an inherent problem with that. I know that I'm usually pretty nice to the Devils media team, because we're friends with some of them and we get along with them for the most part. But there's an inherent problem with you controlling the message like that. There is, and it's not completely the Devils' fault. From what I heard, is that they've tried to get beat reporters on these things from the papers, and the papers just don't want to do it. But when you're controlling the message as far as the Devils are controlling the message right now, there is an inherent problem. They have 5 reporters: Sam Kassan, Chris Westcott, Amanda Stein, Catherine Bogart, and I'm missing one. Or is it 4? Am I missing one?
No, I think it's Catherine Bogart, Sam Kassan, who I think just came on board, Amanda Stein, Chris Westcott. There's got to be a 5th one there, right? I mean, Matt Lachlan, obviously, but
yeah, you got Laughlin, you got, and then outside of them, you got Chico, Sal, Erica Wachter, and Danico, who work for MSG, but, they're not going to, they don't want to, I'm not saying that they wouldn't report something, but I also don't think that they're working their inside sources to try to get information that the Devils don't want to release yet. So that leaves you with Corey Massack, and then people like Neal McHale, who's coming on tonight, who's
Yes.
just back on the beat and trying to work for Insider Hockey and try to get some stories out there. And then you got Dan Rice, who works for us at Pucks and Pitchforks. But this is not his full-time job. His job, he has other jobs, and he also is a very good writer for alternative hockey, female hockey, and the ilk. So he's working on the PWF or PHF, sorry, the PHF. And they had a big day because they got announced for a brand new
Amazing.
streaming deal with ESPN Plus, and that's huge for them. And I love that. I love the access that they now have to households
Yes.
across the country. But he's
Distribution.
busy
Yep.
working on stuff with that. So he's doing two things at once. He's working for us. He had a good article out that came out. He did a one-on-one with Nathan Bastian. Something that we're going to try to do is kind of reintroduce the fans to these guys that are no longer here. I thought that would be a fun little piece, and it came out really well. He's going to try to do Blake Coleman in a couple weeks, hopefully, when he comes back with Calgary. So these are like the fun things that we're trying to do. But this is what we got. We got me and you after that, and the guys that all about the jersey, and a couple of the other places who we aren't credentialed. One, because I live in Tampa, Florida, and I know the other guys. They work other events for streaming networks and stuff like that, and we got a bunch of blogs.
I mean, part of me. I mean, credentials aren't for everyone. Some people, deserve it, and some people need it. But
they're definitely deserving.
Yeah.
For the
like
people
for
who get
me,
them, but
for me, I don't ask unless there's an absolute good reason why I need a credential. I've had credentials in the past with the New Jersey Devils, with other teams, through the NHL or whatnot. But for this podcast so far, I think we're, for me, I'm doing just personally just fine, without it. But there's no need for me to, do whatever. But that's, here nor there. But I'm gonna get Neal McHale. Enough of me. Enough of press credentials and all that. But I just want to know what's happening with Jack Hughes. I don't need to know the medical details. Is he in or is he out? It does not affect me if I'm going to go to the game or not. And I don't think it affects Devils fans either. The fact of the matter is they're 2-0-0. They're going against the Capitals and the Buffalo Sabres in the next few days. I just want to know what the lineup is so I can mentally prepare myself, not being nosy about his business. Anyway, talk to social media.
Craig Best bringing up Nolan Foote. I don't think Nolan Foote has shown that he's ready to do this yet, but Alexander Holtz has. After Alexander Holtz played that one game in Utica, scored 2 goals, in the most Alex Holtz ways that you want to see him score goals. He had one on just a beautiful move where he got past the defense and then just he took the pants off the goalie with a deke and put it through his 5-hole. And then the second one was just a rip one-timer shot, and that he scored on the power play. So those are the 2 ways you want Alexander Holtz scoring, and he did both of them. So he's in the AHL. He's trying to show that he's NHL ready, and he did that. So if you can bring him up, let's say it's 5 games that Hughes is going to be out. If you bring Holtz up for 5 games, move Sharangovich over to center, put Sharangovich, Kuokanen, and Holtz on a line, you got the same. It's impossible to replace the skill you have with Jack Hughes, but the best chance that you have to do it is to put Holtz on that line. And you might even go all in. Let's say you move up Dawson Mercer. Right? And now hear me out. You got Dawson Mercer, Yegor Sharangovich, and Alexander Holtz on that first or second line, whatever. It's probably the second line now, behind the Heischer, Zaka, Bratt line. And then your third line could be Tatar, McLeod, and Janssen. And Janssen's been really good. Janssen's been really good to start the year. It's 2 games. I don't want to get 2 out of Yegor, but he's looked really good. He looked like the guy we thought we were going to get a year ago. He's somebody that I'm really excited to see grow with this organization. There's a couple years left on his contract. He's probably not going anywhere unless they buy him out, unless he starts to look really good, which he has. I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what he can do for this team. If he sticks on that third line as a third line scorer, this team looks like they have depth scoring. The injuries aren't helping. The Devils have to get healthy. Hughes isn't playing tomorrow. I think that's almost. I would put that almost at 100% that he's not playing tomorrow, just because even if he was ready to go, I think the opponent would give Lindy Ruff pause to put him back in the lineup. He doesn't want him to get hurt right away again. So I think that he'll be out tomorrow. If he's going to be out for a week, the McLeod thing is fine. Try that out. See if it works. I still think the Dawson Mercer thing would be fun, even though Dawson Mercer currently has the least amount of minutes on the team outside of Student Each, who only played one game. Mercer's only played 24 minutes in 2 games, so he'd have to up that to 18 or 19 almost immediately. I guess, I mean, it all depends on how you control his power play time, but, you almost have to expect him to take that jump. Steve Tardis says there's no real center option at Utica. I mean, yeah, there's a couple, but yeah, I think I guess you can go with Boquist, but that's pretty much it. And Sam's back.
I'm back. I was chit-chatting with our next guest. His Twitter handle has changed, and I confirmed it with them. I was chit-chatting about that. I was like, whoa.
Oh.
Yeah, because I thought somebody had some hilarious parody account about him, but it turns out that it was really him. He changed it last 6 months. You can find him on Twitter at Neal McHale, Devils beat writer for Inside Hockey, one of my favorite publications of all time since 2004. Neal, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you, my friend? Are you ready? Are you ready for some nice food at Taj Lounge 973 on Saturday when you come join us for some grub? Neal,
Hey,
are
Neal,
you
got
there?
us?
We hear him. Uh-oh. Sorry about that, folks. That's called a little technical difficulties. I'm going to have to figure this one out, Nick. Just give me 1 sec. We hear him. He doesn't hear us. Stand by.
Okay. I'll keep vamping. We love to vamp here at the Let's Go Devils podcast. Steve Tardis says that looks like Jesper Boquist was listed as left wing for Utica. I'd have to double check. I didn't see the lineup that closely. I thought he was going to be center in between Holt and Foote, but it's possible they put him at left wing. I don't. If that's the case, there really is no center option in Utica. Gauthier, it'll be interesting to see what he does. Former first-round pick. He has talent, but he's never really done anything with it. So he really needs to kind of show himself a little bit more. But that's the difference, is that the Devils under Ray Shero were building centers to play wing. You saw that with Blake Coleman. You saw that with how they drafted. They drafted guys like Yegor Sharangovich who could play both. And the Devils did it again. They've been doing it for years. So now they have guys like Yanni Kuokanen who can play center, Pavel Zacha who can play center, Jesper Boquist who can play center, Yegor Sharangovich who can play center. Those are kind of the things that they're trying to do. Is to, in case this happens, this is the worst case scenario is losing Jack Hughes, but at least in this worst case scenario, you have options. If McLeod doesn't work on that second line, let's try Sharangovich. If Sharangovich doesn't work in the center, let's try Dawson Mercer. If Dawson Mercer doesn't work, let's try Pavel Zacha again. If Pavel Zacha doesn't work, let's try moving Kuokanen into the center. If Kuokanen doesn't work, Gauthier. There's a couple other guys you can try to make work. They don't have the flexibility that they had in years past when they can move Blake Coleman to second line center, when they can move Travis Zajac up and down the lineup. But I think that Jack Hughes is a player that he's he he's facing a very important season this year. With the contract up at the end of the year, looking like a superstar again, and after the disastrous first two seasons, he looked much better last year, obviously, but he went through COVID. He lost all the weight he gained in that 10-month off season. He was on fighting that. He got nicked up a little bit. He started to get knocked off the puck a little bit more than he was earlier in the season, and you don't want that to happen again. The shoulder injury is scary. I don't like that it's a shoulder. If it's a collarbone, he's going to be out for longer, but it's going to be a cleaner recovery. So I don't know. I don't know what you want, what you're rooting for here. Are you rooting for the shoulder injury and he's back in 2 weeks, but it might linger? Or are you rooting for a collarbone injury? He's back in 6 weeks, but it's over. It's never going to, it shouldn't come up again. Those collarbone injuries tend to be fluky and don't usually come up again unless there was a quarterback that it happened to. Was it Tony Romo? It happened to multiple times. So there's an outlier for everything, but I think that when it comes to the shoulder injury, that's where the recurring injury problem comes up. That's where it can come up over and over and over again. And I think that that's where you're going to have issues where I don't know when this ends. I don't want it to keep coming up. Matt Junio in the Facebook Live comments, Graves looks very good in the very early going so far. Yeah, I mean, obviously Dougie Hamilton's the big signing, but Ryan Graves has looked just as good. Can I say that? I think he has. Sam, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. We're having technical difficulties. Nick, I don't know what happened, but he can't hear us, but we can hear him. That doesn't work very well. What
No.
we're doing. I don't know why. I hadn't touched the studio, this phone system, since the last time we used it. But hey, this is what happens when you do things live. So I told Neal, hold it. Don't worry about it. Meals on us on Saturday. I'm gonna try to figure this out, but I figure I'd come back and help you out,
All right.
not leave you
So it's
hanging.
all. I appreciate it. So are we? It's just me today? Then is that the deal?
The deal is that I'm trying to fix the phone system so we can get Neal back on.
Okay.
But I came back so you weren't going solo for 30 minutes without any kind
Okay.
of
All right. We'll
yeah.
fix the
So
stuff.
don't
I'll
mind
keep
me.
going
I'm
solo.
gonna
We're
be
good.
working behind the scenes. So, but
Okay.
Ask me anything while I'm trying to fix this thing.
No, you're good. I can handle it. You go fix the thing, and I'll take care of the podcast. It's all good. We'll we'll do it live, Sam.
Do it
I've got a
live.
rhythm going. I got a rhythm
Okay.
going.
Don't let me
Uh,
interrupt you. Go ahead.
so Ryan Graves, we were talking about Ryan Graves, and he's just been a stud muffin out there. I think he played 24 minutes against the Kraken, played over 20 minutes against the Chicago Blackhawks. He's getting points. That pass he made to Tatar that led to Dawson Mercer's first goal was just a thing of, it was beautiful. It was amazing. And honestly, Janssen's pass to start that sequence, he passed it back to Graves. Graves passed it up the ice to Tatar. Tatar with a beautiful cross-ice pass to Mercer, and Mercer scores his first NHL goal. The whole play was just magnifique. Like, it was just amazing. I really loved everything I saw from that. So that third line, see, this is where it really hurts, losing Jack Hughes. This is where things really hurt because the lineup was working so well. Even without Miles Wood in the lineup, it was working so well. But unfortunately, now you have to put him in a blender again because you lost your best player. Now you have to test things out. You have to try things out. You don't have a lot of practice time between games. Like, if this happened against Chicago, you have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to play with the center position. Now you have today. Today was the only day they played McLeod there at line 2. He's going to be there in line 2. They might make changes in game, which you hate to see. There's no chemistry. There's nowhere, the guys don't really know where other guys are going. It's just not an ideal situation for the Devils. And it's not what you want. What you want right now is just health. Health is so important to this team. This team, I don't want to say they're hanging on by a thread. That's probably an over exaggeration of the situation at hand. But to lose Wood, Smith, Severson, Blackwood, all before the season, and then lose Hughes in game 2, you're in trouble. I know Severson came back, and that was big. He looked pretty good. He looked pretty good on that second line on Tuesday, but man, it's without Smith on that left side. That left side is now leaning on guys like Christian Jaros and Colton White. Colton White has looked pretty good, so I don't want to say it in like a negative. I know it's a negative tone that I have with you right now, but it's the lineup is not what it should be right now. And the Devils won both the games. So, credit where credit's due. Seattle and Chicago have struggled to start. These are the games that the Devils have lost before. I'm curious to see what they do tomorrow, because this is a much harder opponent. Sam, you're back.
I'm back. I'm hoping that this works. It could be another software issue. When there's updates. Anybody has ever had that happen to you? I don't know. His name is Neal McHale from Inside Hockey. You can find him on Twitter at Neal McHale. Neal, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you? He can't hear us.
Oh, for Tuesday.
My bad. Maybe third time's the charm. Are you able to take over?
I got it. We'll keep going.
Okay, stand by.
Yeah, and Steve Tardis asked in the Facebook chat about Smith if he was at practice today. They actually did a funny thing with Smith today. They had him practicing with, he was actually, he took off the non-contact jersey. He was a full go today, I'm sorry. And they had him off to the side with Mason Geertsen, where Geertsen was fighting with him on the puck. They were testing that upper body strength to see if there was pain when he was fighting along the boards. And sorry, Steve, I'm not putting the phone to the mic. That is very low grade, and it sounds terrible on the redraft. But we'll figure this out. Don't worry, we'll get Neal on the phone. But yeah, Gravesy, Mickey Mealy says Graves is a +7. Yeah, I'm not a big plus. My whole thing with plus minus is it only works in the margins. So the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom. Now I'm going to look at this because I think he's leading the league. Let me double check this. Yeah, so Ryan Graves is tied with Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers and Tyler Bertuzzi of the Detroit Red Wings for the best plus minus in the league. So he is top, him and Forsling are the top defenders in the league as far as plus minus. I know it's not a stat we like to use because it involves a lot of factors. But here it shows that he is stopping other teams from scoring, and he is helping his team score directly. 3 assists, a +7 plus minus. It's a nice start for the New Jersey Devils. It's a nice start for Ryan Graves and his time with the Devils, and all his advanced stats look just as good. He's stopping people from getting scoring chances. He's helping others get scoring chances. He's on the ice for some of the biggest plays of the game. He seems to be on the ice for everything. I think he was on the ice. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was on the ice for all 4 goals in the Chicago game. Because he was right there. And then this is the thing we forget about Jack Hughes' amazing goal in Game 1, that overtime win that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about. I know you probably heard from Sam Wu about it, maybe a little Vinny Parisi about it, but you haven't heard from me. That goal was stupendous. Oh, my goodness, that goal was amazing. And that's the funny thing about that is that starts with Graves being there and going stride for stride with Hughes and being available for a 2-on-1. And, Hughes could have passed it to him, but Hughes knew that he had this nice little backdoor deke, and he pulled it back to his backhand and just had a wide open net there. Ends the game against Chicago. And we all had, we all puckered up a little bit when the Devils blew that lead. The penalty kill still looks like it can be an issue, maybe. Graves really helps that penalty kill, but he can't be on the ice the entire time. So when you're looking at Severson or Subban as the other defenders, that's where you're kind of worried. Subban, I still think that he has something to contribute to this team, but it's just not on the penalty kill. I just don't see it. And I don't love Severson on that unit. I guess tomorrow they're going to go with what? They're going to go with Hamilton, Graves, White, and not White. White's not playing. Jaros and Siegenthaler. But I guess they're trying to play Severson on that unit, so I guess they're going to go Jaros and Severson. I don't know. There's some issues there when it comes to the penalty kill that I'm not thrilled about, but it's definitely better. Definitely better than last year. We saw a couple good penalty kills from the Devils on Tuesday. And I think that Ryan Graves is somebody who's really making. He might I don't want to overstep because there's a lot of new guys that are making serious impacts on this team. But how can you say anybody's making a bigger impact than Ryan Graves? Hamilton has looked fine. He's looked so good. He looks worth the money. He looks like the top defenseman we need. But he's paired beautifully with Graves from the get. And Graves gets to play on the top line, which he didn't get to do in Colorado. And he gets to show his skills because he doesn't have to worry about, playing on a lower line. And his role has changed. He gets to drive offense because he's on a line with Dougie Hamilton. And that line is usually on either the Hughes line or the Heischer line. And well, actually, they actually didn't play a lot with the Hughes line, which is weird in the first game. But it's just he's in a position to succeed, and he's succeeding. He's finally been given the rock, and he's running in the end zone. It's huge. So I love what the Devils are doing with Ryan Graves. I love how Lindy Ruff, and I got to give credit where credit is due. Lindy Ruff has really done a good job now that he had a full offseason. I was one of the people who did not like the hire. You had Laviolette, who's a possibility, Gerard Gallant, who's a possibility, and now they're both coaching in your division. One for your number one rival in New York. But Ruff has been good, and this system really works in today's NHL. His work with the defense, there was some things to be desired when he was in New York with his work with the defense. I think some of that has been, I don't want to say rectified, but some of that has been lessened of the impact on it. His system he's gotten the best out of Michael McLeod. He's gotten the best out of Miles Wood. He somehow found a good role for Andreas Janssen, Tomas Tatar. The fact they put Janssen, Tatar, and Mercer together and it's worked as well as it has. Yeah. Justin Perrette says, I look like Forrest Gump when I just felt like running. I think that's an insult, but I'm not taking it that way. I look good and I feel good. So that's really, thank you, Justin, for the compliment. I am worried about tomorrow. It's just one game, but it would just be so important for this Devils team to get that win against Washington after how everything went. But Bernier playing his third game in a row. I'm assuming they're not going to put Wedgwood out there. And just the Hughes injury is really just a bummer. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. They beat them in the preseason, so that was nice. And then they play the weirdly scorching hot Buffalo Sabres at home on Saturday. And then on Tuesday they play Calgary. That's 5 games in a row that they're going to play at home. And then they go to Pittsburgh, come back home, and they start November with that California road trip, which isn't too bad. It's only 3 games. And can I tell you how much I love the fact that a lot of these games are on ESPN Plus? The Devils' next 7 games are on ESPN Plus. The first 2 were as well, and a couple were on Hulu. The Ducks game and the Kings game are both on Hulu, so you're getting a lot of exposure if you're a Devils fan. And I'm sure they're going to add some as the season goes on. They're going to continue to add games to the schedule. I'm sure they're not done because I don't think the plan was always to have the Devils on 7 or 8 ESPN games in a row, ESPN Plus games in a row. I don't think that was the plan, but that's how it's working out. And they advertise the over 1,000 games. It's got to be a lot of Devils games. So I'm excited to see what happens with the ESPN Plus. I'm really liking TNT and ESPN so far. I mean, what's not to like? Their studio shows are good. Their broadcasts are good. Sam has given up. You've given up, Sam?
Yeah, I apologize to everybody and Neal McHale. I can't figure this thing out. I I don't know if there was a power, sir. The thing just doesn't work.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I'm all mad now because I
it's
was
okay.
like, it's gonna be a fun show. We got Neal McHale, blah 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 blah. But somehow the phone systems don't work. Maybe it's just one of
I
those
mean,
things.
it happens. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I'll
the phone
apologize. I'm
systems
sure
has
you
an upper
apologize to
body
him, but
injury. Has an
yeah,
upper body
it's
injury
out
day
like
to day.
Hughes.
Yeah, I'll let you. I'll let you know later in the day if I get it fixed.
Okay. Um,
Sorry about that, folks. Rarely happens, but yeah, I don't know why the sound doesn't go to the phones.
I got nothing.
Now, well, just the further your thought. AJ Bravo says on the YouTube live, I hope Holtz gets called up by December. What do you think? Do you think he'll get back?
I want him
Get
to
on the
come
team by
now.
December?
Call him up now. Why not?
He's exciting. But you know
He looks
what?
really good.
But the Devils, this is a new AHL team for the Devils. They want first impressions, everything. Could it be? Hey, let them sell them the sizzle a little bit by allowing Alexander Holtz to display his talents. Do you think
I think
that
that you're
came in?
just everything changed when Hughes got hurt. Like you need skill on this
Yeah,
team now. You need to
yeah,
compete. If you want to be in it by the end of the season, you need as much skill and talent on this team as possible. So I think that if you think that Holtz is ready to go, I think you gotta bring him up. But as far as Utica goes, and I said this last week in our massive preview that I was skeptical of the move to Utica, but it seems to have been a nice embrace. Uh, maybe we spoke to David Edelstein with the television station out there, and he explained to us that it always felt like it was an inevitability that the Utica Comets and the Vancouver Canucks were going to divorce because they just didn't, they had the fan base and the thirst for hockey, and you see it because the local TV station is airing games.
yes,
They're a broadcast partner, so that's a big deal, Sam. And but they knew that the Canucks were, you know, they were ships passing in the night. They were a partnership for a little while, but they're just too far away from Vancouver, and there's a border
yeah.
issue there, and there
And
was
it's
just a
not like
lot.
the Devils don't have any history in Utica. You see that crowd opening night when Holtz scored not one
It
but
was
two goals.
electric. It was
Yeah,
electric.
felt like a
Utica was
playoff
really
game.
excited for it. And the Devils have some really good players there. The defensive players are getting better. The goalies are getting better. Obviously, you expected Scott Wedgwood to be there, but he's not going to be there for at least a little while because Blackwood's not even on the ice. He was Sam. He was in games. He was supposed to play 60 minutes 2 Thursdays ago, and now he's not. 2 weeks later, it's 2 weeks since that game got canceled, Sam,
Mm-hmm.
and Blackwood hasn't been on the ice since. He was out with the COVID testing nonsense. Oh, maybe he was on the ice once, right? Maybe he was on the ice once after the COVID testing nonsense on that Monday. Then something happened, and now he hasn't been on the ice for a week and a half. I don't know what the fix is, but that's an issue. Oh, I just got your text now. Not looking good. Am I not looking good, or is that from before?
It's kind of both. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's from before. I don't know, but little Fireboy. Another fun fact of Ryan Graves, assisted former teammate Alex Newhook, also from Newfoundland, on his first NHL goal last season.
Oh, it's funny. We were talking about Ryan Graves for about 5 minutes while you were gone,
Oh, okay.
and his contribution. But that's funny. Alex Newhook, another Newfoundland native. He's one of those really good young players in Colorado who's supposed to lead that team to a decade of dominance. But Mercer looks like just star power. He looks like star power personified. Um, he really opened some eyes with that goal. I think that, when you're looking at people in the Rookie of the Year conversation, nobody was really giving Dawson Mercer any credit. But I think now is the time to give him credit. I think now is the time to say, well, he has the skill. He has what it takes. Maybe he's going to struggle against somebody like Washington, who's big, veteran laden, star power, can really grind you down, makes you work for every inch on the ice. Maybe you'll have trouble there. But I think against some of these other teams, like even like the Rangers, the Flyers, the Blue Jackets, he's not going to struggle against them. He'll struggle against the Bostons. He'll struggle against the Washingtons. Maybe even a team like Los Angeles, he might struggle against just because they're big and there's some badness there. But and then like Dallas would be a team he's going to struggle against, just because he's a rookie. It's nothing against him or his play style or anything like that. He doesn't have to change anything. It's just rookies who play the way he plays don't get the space that they get in other matchups. So I think that he'll have a lot of matchups where he looks good though.
Dawson Mercer has an opportunity right now with Jack Hughes injured. Dawson Mercer, the legend, has been growing, and I have no reason to believe that tomorrow night he puts up multiple points to add to his, rookie campaign, because he's far exceeded everybody's expectations. I mean, the expectations were pretty high going into training camp, but I think he far exceeded everybody's. He
Yeah.
made the team. He's on track for an 82-point plus season so far with the 2-game sample, as I like to say. But
Yeah.
tomorrow night's going to be a big test for the entire New Jersey Devils squad. Were the acquisitions of Dougie Hamilton and Ryan Graves and, Tatar, Bernier, will they pay off tomorrow night? That's the real test. I mean, that is a big team, a veteran team, a team that won the Stanley Cup a few years ago. That should be interesting. Will they try to get Dawson Mercer off his game?
I
Will
think
they
that's
put a
definitely
hit
the
on
plan.
him? Yeah, and
It's
and
definitely
let's
like
see
he's
how
just because he's a
Mercer
rookie.
responds. Yeah, and let's see how
I will.
Mercer responds. So far, he's responded very well to every single challenge that he's been
Yeah.
thrown at him.
But before we go, I want to bring up one last thing. So the Metropolitan Division, we talked about how ridiculous it's going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Devils are 2-0. They're 2-0-0. The Hurricanes are also 2-0-0. There's only one team in this division, Sam, that has more losses than wins, and that's the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders are also the only team that have 2 games where they didn't get a point, and they're pretty much universally thought of as the most likely playoff team in this division. So they're going to bounce back almost exclusively. The Penguins have 2 wins and 2 overtime losses, so they've gotten points in all 4 games. The Capitals have 2 wins and 1 overtime loss, so they've gotten points in all of their games. The Rangers are 2-1-1, so they've only gotten, out of 4 games, they've gotten 2 wins and then a point in the other one. Even the Columbus Blue Jackets are 2-1-0. So this division's going to give you no easy wins. Every game is going to come difficult. I'm curious of who the Blue Jackets beat. So I mean, yeah, they've had Arizona, Seattle, and Detroit. So I guess pretty easy schedule to start off the year. But still, that's two 1-0 is 2-1-0. It is what it is. So, but there's a lot of interesting teams in the standings, Sam. There's a lot of teams that are doing better than we thought they were going to do. Buffalo, obviously, did not expect them to be leading the Atlantic Division at any point this season, even though it's only after 3 games. Detroit's looked good. Minnesota's looked good. After buying out Parisi and Suter, they still like they're a contender in that Western Conference. And San Jose has looked good. They've only played 2 games too, but after all the Evander Kane nonsense, they're bouncing back in a big way. So, I'm just leaving you with that. This league is weird to start. I'm excited about the Devils 2-0-0 start, but there's still a long way to go. Even after winning the first 2 games, they're still technically not in a playoff spot. Not that you're looking at playoffs this early, but it's just funny that the Devils have won every game, and it still wasn't enough to put them in a playoff spot because the Eastern Conference is very good, and the Metropolitan Division is wildly good. The only team that's really bad, Sam, in the Eastern Conference is Montreal, right? 0-4. What a bad start for the team that represented. Well, did they represent the West, I guess? I don't know who they represented in the Stanley Cup final, but
they represented Canada.
There you go. They represented Canada in the Stanley Cup final, but they're not only are they 0-4, but they look really bad doing it. They've only been within 1 goal once this season. They just lost 5-0 to San Jose. What a terrible start for Montreal. Montreal's a team. Their roster is interesting. Obviously they just gave Nick Suzuki that big contract, but Jonathan Drouin has 2 goals at least. He's somebody I'd definitely look into. I like Jonathan Drouin. I think he's gotten a lot of his issues behind him, and they were personal issues. They weren't off the ice problems. They weren't things that hurt him or his teammates. He had to figure himself out, but he's the only person on this team with 2 goals. In fact, this team has 3 goals this season, and 2 of them are from Jonathan Drouin. This team is having a pathetic start. 3 goals in 4 games, Sam.
Yeah, that's not good. Speaking of Nick Suzuki, I think it was Elliot Friedman or it was Pierre LeBrun brought up the issue of Jack Hughes' contract extension. Did you read all about it on Twitter?
I did not. Was it on The Athletic or was it on Sportsnet? Or
I don't know where I got it, but Jack Hughes' camp is like, hey, we want to be here. Why should we sign now? We have time. And it just builds up. Look, the Devils are obviously going to re-sign Hughes whenever that happens. It's just a matter of how much. Would it be in the Devils' best interest to sign him earlier? I think so. While his stock is...
Here's the issue here. Here's some of the clients that Pat Brisson shares. He's Jack Hughes' agent.
Yep.
He's also the agent for... I think he's with CAA.
Okay.
Yeah, CAA. John Tavares, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Anze Kopitar, all players that took every dime that they could as superstar players. Then you got a couple like Sidney Crosby and Claude Giroux. Giroux, if you remember, they played their cards right, and his contract ended at the perfect time, so he got paid. Matt Duchene, who obviously nickeled and dimed until he got every penny, and then Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is obviously a player who, it just took a while to get this done, but they got every dime out of Vancouver. And then there's some other ones like Kyle Poso. He got a good contract for Anthony Mantha. Seth Jones. got that $9.5 million contract
Yeah.
that hasn't even started yet for Seth Jones. So Brisson is an agent that gets a lot. He's also Jonathan Bernier's agent, and some people consider Jonathan Bernier's deal a little bit of an overpay. I think it's fine if you have cap space; it doesn't matter. You really needed a backup goalie here, but he's a guy. He didn't get underpaid, that's for sure. Like
Yeah.
Brisson gets his clients the best deal, and that's not a problem. He's good at his job,
Yeah.
But we've seen him be patient, and we've seen him wait for the right price. We've seen him sign things early, like with Crosby and with a couple other guys, and we've seen him wait till the last second, like Elias Pettersson is one of his clients, like signed at the last possible second. So, and we've seen him wait it out, like with Tavares. Tavares is an unrestricted free agent, so it was in his
Is
best
he
interest
also
to go
Luke
to.
Hughes' agent? That's a good
Luke Hughes is
question.
not allowed to have an agent because he's in
Oh,
college.
not. Oh, that's right.
So
I thought that stuff didn't matter anymore.
I'm sure that they have a texting relationship of some kind. No, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't report that. That's not. I'm just saying his brothers are his clients. I'm gonna assume that Luke is gonna go and get the same client as his brothers, especially since Quinn got a pretty good contract out of them, and Jack Hughes is gonna get, depending on the injury, and depending on what this is. If Jack Hughes plays 50 games this year, you can't. Can you give him $8 million a year? What do you think, Sam? Can you give Jack Hughes $8 million a year if he only plays 50 games this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Just remember, he's a first overall pick. He's a first overall pick. Last night, again, I don't think, that was a freak injury. In some respects, it doesn't happen very often. It's not like Jack Hughes is injury prone,
Yeah.
And
he's
also,
unlucky, but I wouldn't call him injury prone.
Yeah. I think Jack Hughes is worth every penny, but also keep in mind, overpaying players in general may cost you a Stanley Cup because of cap space. It's not like there's unlimited resources to work with. The more you pay a player, the more of the pie that they take, because there's only so much you can give. And if there's any chance of Luke and Jack and Quinn to play on one team, you're gonna need space. You can't just give it all to all three of them.
Absolutely. Although the greatest thing that Pat Preston did was get Jack Johnson another NHL contract. That was the superhero deal right there. But that's all I got tonight. We made it an hour. Made it through technical difficulties. You might have some editing work to do on this podcast, but once we put it out, it's gonna sound good. You had me just ranting about Ryan Graves, Jack Hughes, a couple other people, Ty Smith, for about 25 minutes, but it was enjoyable. People stuck around.
Well, we've got a lot of people right now on YouTube Live, Facebook Live. I haven't checked Twitter. But yeah, well, I'll be at Todd's Lounge 97.3 tomorrow night for Game Day Live with Vinny Parisi, Pucks and Pitchforks blog contributor, and Devils After Dark for post game.
We're gonna have some couple fun pieces going up on Pucks and Pitchforks this week. I took a couple days off because it was my wife's birthday. We went to Pittsburgh. We saw some friends. We saw some family. It was a nice couple days off, but I'm back on the grind starting today. I told you we got 3 possible replacements for Jack Hughes in the lineup. A couple other pieces that are going to come out in the next couple days. I definitely want to do one on Ryan Graves, kind of just looking at his impact. So I'll probably do one after the game tomorrow at some point. Hopefully that can go up by Friday. And then, and then we're going to have a couple more slideshows, a couple fun things going on over the weekend. There's going to be a lot of writing over the next 2 weeks, Sam. It's going to be spooky scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of podcasting, a lot of winning. That's what I expect. A lot of winning. Hopefully in the next few days. Tomorrow, Saturday. I think there's a game Tuesday.
Yep.
I can't keep track anymore.
So yeah, we got Blake Coleman returning on Tuesday.
Ooh. Pickles.
Yeah.
All right.
Pickles did he ever return? I don't remember if he was here that second half of the 2019-20 season. I don't think so. I think this is his first time, right? This is his first time in New Jersey since the trade, so that'll be fun. And Dan Rice says he's going to try to get a little profile of Blake Coleman. Check that out right now. The profile of Nate Bastian is a lot of fun. It's fun to kind of see what he has to say about the Devils and has to say about the expansion draft and what it was like to, go from excited to be here, signing a 2-year deal, to being in the expansion draft. So lots of emotions. It's a fun piece.
Well, thank you for everybody for watching and listening. Podcast will be dropped at midnight. Till next time, let's go Devils.